7 Terrible Realities of Life at Sea in the Golden Age of Sail. Before we start, I would want you to hit that red subscribe button so that you never miss out on any of our videos. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Insane Worlds. 7. Pressed and Crimped. During its quest for global dominance, the British Empire granted the Royal Navy the power to forcefully recruit individuals into military service. That practice was known as impressment. This ugly practice goes all the way back to Elizabethan times. Then, press gangs were employed to round up vagrants in English towns. The men were forced to fill the crews of ships, whether they wanted to or not. While the minimum age for joining the Navy was 16, some boys as young as 7 or 8 were pressed into service as powder monkeys. These youngsters played a crucial role in a hazardous job. They ferried gunpowder from the ship's hold to the artillery weapons. Officers favored them for their agility and ability to navigate cramped spaces more swiftly than adults. Over time, the press gangs were replaced by crimps. 6. Slavery. During the late 15th century, nearly 11 million Africans were enslaved by European sailors. These captives were subjected to unimaginable hardships over the next 4 centuries. European powers built colonies in the Americas on the backs of this forced labor. The journey of enslaved Africans began with their transportation on slave ships. Deep down in the ships, they were confined in shackles. The vessels were plagued with bacteria and emitted a putrid stench. When they embarked, the treacherous voyages lasted up to 2 months. Known as the Middle Passage, this perilous journey across the Atlantic Ocean claimed countless lives. Harsh weather, inhumane conditions, and rampant diseases were consistent killers. Some desperate captives even chose to jump overboard. 5. Subjugation. Thanksgiving is a cherished American tradition. Families gather to give thanks, enjoy a feast, and watch as much football as they can handle. We're supposed to use the holiday to thank each other and our community for living in such a great land. And many Americans who celebrate it often think back to the first ever Thanksgiving too. Yes, it originated as part of the Pilgrims' first harvest in Plymouth, Massachusetts, in the 17th century. The migrating pilgrims were right there alongside indigenous tribes, and then held a meal for all of history. However, harmony faded fast. Native Americans and the newcomers clashed throughout the end of the Age of Sail and well beyond it. 4. Sudden violence. Magellan, Cook, and Ponce de Leon are among many renowned figures whose names are etched in history. However, their journeys ended tragically at the hands of indigenous peoples they encountered along the way. And like them, many other explorers met awful fates upon reaching their eventual destinations. As it turns out, native peoples didn't always care for outsiders showing up and rudely trampling everything. Who knew? Ferdinand Magellan, despite his groundbreaking circumnavigation, met his demise in the Philippines. Struck by a bamboo spear, he never completed his momentous voyage. Similarly, Juan Ponce de Leon's quest for the mythical Fountain of Youth in Florida was cut short by a poison arrow from the Calusa warriors in 1521. Captain James Cook, the daring British navigator, met his fate in the beautiful Hawaiian Islands. 3. Living with rats. During the 1700s, rats were a notorious problem on English and French ships. Vessels taking part in the colonization of North America were relentlessly plagued. These pesky rodents infested ships all across the Golden Age of Sail. They snuck aboard in ports during the loading and unloading of goods. Once aboard, they multiplied rapidly in the ship's holds. Then, they gnawed through food supplies and caused general havoc. Crew members faced the greatest risk from the diseases transmitted by rats. The cramped conditions below deck made it easy for direct contact with rat saliva, urine, or feces. There was plenty of indirect contact through contaminated food storage too. Moreover, rats carried fleas that acted as disease vectors. 2. Brutal consequences. Living conditions for sailors in the past were far from pleasant. They endured cramped and foul-smelling quarters, often had to survive on spoiled or scarce food, and worked grueling shifts non-stop. As if that wasn't enough, these unfortunate men had to endure the cruel treatment of sadistic officers who took pleasure in enforcing discipline. These conditions sometimes pushed sailors to the brink, resulting in mutiny, as was the case with the famous explorer Henry Hudson. Many other explorers and ship captains also learned this lesson the hard way: take punishment too far, and sailors will rebel in a murderous rage. Punishments were particularly harsh on board merchant ships. Flogging was the most common form of discipline. In that era, it took on a savage twist known as kissing the gunner's daughter. 1. Smoking like a chimney. Cigarette smoking is responsible for nearly half the deaths caused by all types of cancer. It severely affects organs, including the liver, colon, rectum, lung, throat, esophagus, larynx, stomach, pancreas, bladder, kidney, and cervix. Major anti-smoking initiatives have taken place in recent decades. But the habit has been around for a long time. Interestingly, this harmful practice was introduced to the world during the Age of Exploration. When Christopher Columbus arrived in the Caribbean, he was presented with dry tobacco leaves by the locals of San Salvador. Unaware of their purpose, Columbus discarded them into the sea. However, he soon discovered their value in trade. Other European explorers learned of their importance, too, and many soon began cultivating the highly addictive and lucrative cash crop. This brings us to the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit like if you did, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any of our videos in the future. Also, watch the 2 videos that are on your screen, because I'm sure you'll love them.